The Book of Giants, a text so ancient, so forbidden, and so dangerous that it was deliberately erased from the pages of the Bible. But why? Why would religious authorities and powerful institutions across history fight to bury this book so deeply that even mentioning its contents was considered blasphemy? What secrets could it possibly contain that threatened the very foundation of the history we've been taught? What if I told you that this book describes a race of monstrous beings, giants born from the union of heavenly watchers and human women who once ruled over the earth with terrifying power, leaving behind ruins, myths, and legends that modern science still cannot explain? And what if I told you that these giants weren't just myth, but part of our true human history, hidden, suppressed, and systematically erased? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about human origins, the Bible, and the ancient past. And before we dive in, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to Ancient Light, because trust me, you don't want to miss the hidden truths we uncover in every video now. Let's begin with the mystery itself. The Book of Giants was discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves of Qumran in the mid-20th century. For nearly 2,000 years, it had been lost to the world, buried away in the Judean desert. Unlike other apocryphal texts, this one was different. It directly expanded upon a story. The Bible only hints at the story of the Nephilim, those shadowy figures mentioned briefly in Genesis. According to the Book of Giants, the Nephilim weren't just ordinary men. They were enormous hybrid beings, children of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and human women. These Watchers, led by rebellious angels, not only fathered these giants, but also taught humanity forbidden knowledge, the secrets of weapon making, sorcery, astrology, and even the manipulation of nature itself. Imagine that for a moment. The sudden explosion of human civilization thousands of years ago, the building of megalithic structures, the advanced astronomical alignments, the mysterious ancient technologies, all of it could be explained by the teachings of these fallen Watchers. And yet this is exactly the kind of story that mainstream history refuses to accept. Why? Because if true, it means our history is not a straight line of gradual progress, but a shattered record of contact with otherworldly beings, divine rebellions, and catastrophic judgment. The Book of Giants goes into chilling detail about these monstrous offspring. It describes them as vast in size, devouring everything in their path, even turning to cannibalism when the land could no longer support their hunger. They were not only giants in body, but giants in cruelty, unleashing chaos across the earth. The text even names some of these beings Zoya and Haha, sons of the fallen angel Shem. These names might sound strange to us now, but to ancient people, they were feared as destroyers. The text says that these giants had dreams, visions of their coming doom where the earth was flooded, and everything they had built would be swept away. Terrified, they begged the prophet Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, to intercede on their behalf. But Enoch told them the truth. Their judgment was sealed, and their destruction was inevitable. Think about this. A forbidden book, hidden for millennia, telling us that giants once walked this earth, corrupting mankind, bringing forbidden knowledge, and ultimately provoking the Great Flood itself. That means the flood of Noah was not just about human sin, it was about wiping out the giants, the Nephilim, the abominations that threatened creation itself. Now ask yourself, why would this book be removed from the Bible? Why would church fathers and religious authorities decide that humanity was not allowed to know this part of its history? The answer is power. Knowledge is power, and the Book of Giants reveals too much. It suggests that human history was interfered with by beings beyond this world. It suggests that our civilizations did not rise on their own, but were influenced, even corrupted, by fallen angels. It suggests that the ruins we see around the world, the Great Pyramids, the megaliths of Baalbek, the statues of Easter Island, the underground cities of Turkey may not have been the work of primitive men with simple tools, but of a race of beings larger, stronger, and more advanced than anything we can imagine. To admit this would shatter the carefully controlled version of history we're taught in schools. It would also expose the uncomfortable truth that the Bible as we know it is incomplete, that parts of it were deliberately cut away. But the Book of Giants didn't just vanish. Fragments of it survived, whispered about in apocryphal traditions, carried into Persian Manichaean texts, even echoed in the mythologies of cultures worldwide. Think of the titans of Greek mythology, vast beings overthrown by the gods. Think of the Norse Jotunn, the frost giants waging war against Odin and the Aesir. Think of the Hindu Rakshasas, giant demons with insatiable appetites. Again and again, across the globe, we find echoes of the same story, a time when giants walked the earth, when humanity was not alone, and when divine judgment was unleashed upon the world. Could it all trace back to the same source, the very giants described in the Book of Giants? And if so, why do we dismiss these stories as mere myth? Isn't it more reasonable to think that these are cultural memories, distorted by time, of a very real and terrifying history? And here's where things get even stranger. Modern science is beginning to uncover clues that line up eerily with the Book of Giants. In North America, for example, there are countless reports from the 19th century of enormous skeletons unearthed by farmers, explorers, and even the Smithsonian itself. skeletons measuring 8, 10, even 12 feet tall. Newspaper articles from the time describe burial mounds filled with these giant remains. But where are they now? Banished, suppressed, declared hoaxes. Why would so many reports from so many different places all tell the same story? And why would these remains conveniently disappear into museum basements, never to be seen again? If the Book of Giants is a myth, then why do we find physical evidence that seems to confirm it? Could it be that the institutions in charge of our knowledge, religious and scientific alike, have both agreed to keep this secret buried? The text also tells us something else extraordinary. The giants were not just wiped out in the flood. Their spirits, it says, were cursed to wander the earth. Disembodied, restless, filled with hatred toward mankind. In other words, the Book of Giants suggests that the origin of demons, the evil spirits that haunt humanity, comes from the dead Nephilim. This changes everything. It means that the demons cast out by Jesus in the Gospels weren't fallen angels, but the spirits of ancient giants. It means the warfare between heaven and earth continues, not just in the past, but even now in ways we can hardly perceive. This is not just history, it is the hidden backdrop of human existence. Think for a moment about the implications. If these giants were real, if they once ruled over mankind, if their remnants are still among us, then everything from ancient mythology to modern religion takes on a new, more terrifying meaning. And maybe this is why the Book of Giants had to be banned. Because once you know this story, you can never see the world the same way again. You begin to question every monument, every myth, every missing piece of history. You begin to realize that our story is far older, stranger, and more disturbing than we've ever been told. But here's the real shocker. Some traditions suggest the Nephilim may not be entirely gone. The Book of Giants describes them as vast, mighty, and corrupt, but what if remnants of their bloodline still exist today? Ancient kings often claim descent from gods or giants. The pharaohs of Egypt, the kings of Mesopotamia, even the royal families of Europe all tied their legitimacy to some divine or supernatural heritage. Could this be a hidden echo of Nephilim blood? Could it be that the powerful elites of history and perhaps even today trace their lineage back to these forbidden unions? It sounds unbelievable, but then again, so did the idea of a lost book that would one day be rediscovered in a desert cave. The Book of Giants is more than just a missing piece of scripture. It is a warning that power can corrupt even the heavens, that humanity has been deceived before, and that secrets too great for us to handle are always kept from our sight. But once uncovered, they cannot be forgotten. Giants may no longer walk the earth in flesh and bone, but their shadow lingers, in myths, in ruins, in unexplained mysteries, and perhaps even in the blood of rulers who shape our world today. So the next time you hear about ancient myths of gods mating with mortals, about titans, about giants buried in forgotten mounds, or about demons tormenting mankind, remember the Book of Giants. Remember that it was erased, banned, and suppressed, not because it was false, but because it was too close to the truth. A truth that reveals our history is not what we think. A truth that humanity has tried to forget, but cannot erase. And ask yourself, if this was hidden from us, what else is still being kept secret? Because history isn't just written by the victors. Sometimes, it's rewritten to make sure we never discover who we really are.